What's going on, guys? I'm Sharlene Radlein. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today's video, I have something that I've kind of been hesitant to shoot, actually. If you guys have seen my previous video that I did at Modrn Sanctuary, then this is kind of a continuation of that video. I shot that maybe 3 months ago, and maybe 2-3 weeks after that, I actually went back to Modrn Sanctuary for a different service. And that service was a past life regression therapy session. I did not know anything going in what that would actually entail, and I came out very enlightened, needing to figure out, my own self-discovery the following weeks. And that's the reason why I didn't shoot it immediately. I wanted to give myself enough time to digest what I had seen, what I talked to Matt about, and what I actually wanted to take away from the experience instead of just jumping in straight into this and filming it for you guys. So I just want to apologize to Modrn Sanctuary for me taking a while for having this video come out so late, because honestly I really needed to just figure out how I was even going to do this video to begin with. So if you're unfamiliar and didn't see my first video, Modrn Sanctuary is literally like a sanctuary in the middle of Manhattan. It's got an assortment of services that you can try, from the 7 sensory chakra, which is what I did the first time, wellness, beauty, and medical, med spa type services. So before my arrival to Modrn Sanctuary, I actually talked to Matt Walczak. I believe I'm saying his name right. I'm so sorry if I'm not, Matt, but your name is right here. I'm going to put it right here so that way everyone can see. Before I went in, I wanted to just know what this actually entailed, what I was getting myself into before I just threw myself into something and then just regret the regression, basically. He really assured me as to what the process was going to be, and step by step of what I can expect, and kind of a back history of what past life regression really is. I do have a little clip of us kind of going over the conversation that we had on the phone because it was just so inspiring. So let me include that right now. What should I expect throughout this experience?
First thing that I would say is that past life regression is a form of hypnotherapy or hypnosis.
Okay.
So it's very similar in part to that, at least the induction part, which is the part that takes place where you just get relaxed. So you just listen to my voice and I say a bunch of stuff.
Okay, but it's not going to be you're not going to ding.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, it's still about focusing your awareness.
Okay.
But you can do that with the breath. You can do that with the body. You can do that with visual things other than the pendulum. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or the watch.
Gotcha. This is my first time ever doing this, so I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of hesitant, but I'm super excited.
No reason to be scared or worried. So we would just jump in, and with someone who's just starting out, I would probably do different snapshots and scenes from different past lives. Okay.
So we'll go through multiple past lives.
Yeah, exactly. So you can just kind of get a taste for it and have different experiences. If I'm working with someone one-on-one and it's someone that maybe is coming back to me for multiple sessions, we might explore one past life. Okay. And sort of get a main theme or continuity through that. Yeah, it's good to come in with questions or intentions. Okay. To explore. Sometimes some other stuff shows up. It's sort of like what shows up is sort of what needs to show up. Is how I describe it,
You can't hide.
Basically. Okay. So I would say that sometimes people come in with very specific things, and with past life regression, there are times where it just kind of goes somewhere completely different and is helpful in a completely different way. Yeah.
Oh man, I come in with one intention, it sets me on a different path.
It's possible. It's possible. Yeah. So a lot of people, what they think of hypnosis is like mind control, right? And that you're coming to see a hypnotherapist and you're surrendering some kind of control to this person. Right. In my experience, my own personal experience, as a hypnotherapist, it's not really.
How long have you been doing this, by the way?
About 4 years.
4 years. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In my experience, it's usually something that's very, very empowering, right? So in hypnosis, you can actually access very favorable states and resources and strengths that you have within you, but maybe consciously didn't have access to. Okay. So from my own experience, it's actually a very empowering experience rather than something like surrendering control. And of course,
you're not gonna make me slap myself in the face or something.
So most people, you kind of have the idea of what hypnosis is from like movies and books and things like that, and stage hypnosis is another thing. And all those things are usually really bad PR for someone like me, who does this as a form of therapy, right?
Okay.
Because people think it's like losing control, it's kind of a mind trick, there's maybe like this magical aspect to it.
Now I'm like this little puppeteer that you're gonna like just take advantage of, basically.
Right. So what happens with, you know, stage hypnosis is that there are actually tests that they usually do beforehand.
Oh, okay.
Also, when you're on stage, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, a lot of people are just more are playing into it and more suggestible.
Got it.
Because they're like performing, you know.
This is their moment to shine.
Right. So there are a lot of factors that go into someone quacking like a duck on stage that most people don't know about.
It's the influence of the environment as well as what the person's saying that can essentially get them to do whatever.
Right, and they do a lot of tests to see how hypnotizable that the people in the audience are. Usually,
Okay.
And with hypnotherapy, you know, it's all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. That's what. So it's an inside job. I'm here to help you, right, and guide you through this thing. But it's an internal process that's your own. So tarot, I would actually compare more specifically to past life regression, right? You get these cards in front of you, these different images, symbols, metaphors, archetypes, right? And it's really up to you to make the connection, right? The card is there, the meaning is there, but you're like, oh, this makes sense because blah, blah, blah happened, or whatever is happening in your life. So with past life regression, I would say it's very similar, but the images and the metaphors and the archetypes are coming from within.
Honestly, I had so many questions, like past life regression. Am I making it up? Am I just like coming up with pictures in my mind on my own? Is this something that, can I really get into a hypnotic type state? I am not the type of person that I can just relax easy. My mind is constantly active, and I've kind of figured maybe I won't actually have a great first try at this past life regression. And Matt kind of said, you may or you may not. It just depends on how much you really relax in the entire experience in order to get out of it. What you put in is what you're gonna get out. Now, I want to say that I am also a very avid dreamer, and I am a very lucid dreamer. I have dreams constantly. I have a little notebook of all of my dreams, the symbols that, you know, that pop up, and they actually do correlate with a lot of the things that are going on in my life day to day. So I personally felt past life regression was just like the next step of having my dreams, but in a waking state under hypnosis. You know what I mean? Hypnosis. There's a lot of controversy around it, right? And Matt assured me it's not this like, oh, now you're getting really sleepy. It's nothing like that. And all of a sudden I'm like doing something, or he was going to take advantage of me in some sort of crazy way where I'd be slapping myself or like running into a wall or something maddening. I was very well aware of like what was happening. It wasn't like I was unconscious while he was guiding me. I just allowed him to guide me through the process. It's kind of just like any guided meditation if you were to do one on Headspace or the other one that I can't remember right now. Unfortunately, I will have to say, Matt did tell me that I was unable, that he didn't want me to film what I did. Like, he didn't want me to go in there and film it because I would have subconsciously in the back of my mind thinking that I'm being filmed. Maybe I have to put on an act. Maybe I have to, you know, maybe I won't allow myself to completely relax because, you know, you'll just know that something's recording you. Unfortunately, I don't have footage just showing me, you know, breaking down, because I did. And I did tell Matt before we started, I'm probably gonna cry, because I cry. The waterworks are just there. I'm very hydrated, okay? So this video is basically gonna just be me explaining what it was like, my experience, and would I recommend doing it again. Allison at Modrn Sanctuary gave me the pleasure to do this experience in the salt room, which I love. If you guys have not checked out this Himalayan salt room yet, or have had that on your bucket list, highly recommend going to this place because it's absolutely beautiful. From there, we went ahead and sat down. I set my belongings outside the room. I sat down, and that's when we started. We did a couple deep breaths before we started just to kind of relax me and also to just ground me in my environment, because that was very important. From there, I actually was able to get into 4 of my past lives, and that was actually a lot. That was a lot more than Matt was actually expecting, because he said that most people, it's even difficult to get into 1. And I was able to just jump around and just be in something in a moment, and if I had any fears, I left. and he guided me to leave the room if I felt uncomfortable. There was, I had to just imagine myself in a space. There's stairs leading down, and with every step that we take, every step that I take, he counts down. So he's counting down from 10, 9, 8, 7, all the way down to 1, and then suddenly a door would appear. From that door, I then entered into my first past life. And there was nothing crazy about it, in the sense. I was in an open field. I want to say it was probably the 1950s or so, which I'm obsessed with, which is just great. Maybe the 1950s, maybe the 1940s. I lived on a prairie, and I just remember wearing a white dress. I had straight hair, and I was doing laundry. I was hanging things up on a line with clips, you know, and I was just admiring the grass that was blowing in the breeze. There was nothing more to it. I was just there, looking around, complacent, happy, and everything was simple. From then, he guided me to leave and go back to that door that I came from. I walked into my next past life. And from that past life, that's the one that actually started to scare me. I walked in, and I just remember looking down at my hands, and I was now in a home that was covered in vines, and it was dark. It was very ominous. It almost had a very spooky, surreal type of environment. Just not an environment that I wanted to be around, to be honest. I remember looking at my hands and then flipping my hands back and forth over, you know, front and back, front and back. I remember looking to my left and seeing a tablecloth, and it was a checkered tablecloth, but the windows were broken, so the wind was rushing in. I remember looking side to side and just having a lot of fear. Suddenly the stairs that I had looked that had led me to this door were covered in vines. Matt then asked me if I wanted to exit. I said yes. I immediately started to become very uncomfortable in this experience. I started to have, my breath was a lot deeper. I started feeling like I was very claustrophobic, and he calmed me down and saying, okay, now we're going to include a spiritual animal. It can be anything. It can be an inanimate object. It can be a person. It could be whatever it is that you want. I then chose mine, or it chose me, and I carried that spiritual animal into my next life. And this next life was the most prominent one, and I think about it constantly. It has made a very deep impact in my life. And I was a little boy. I was probably 8 to 10 years old, very rambunctious, a lot of energy, was going from house to house to house. I lived in a little village. I had a mother, and it was just my mother and I. She had long, long dark hair. It was braided in one single braid. I had short hair, straight as well. And I loved my mother dearly. I just remember feeling such happiness, such wholeness. And we lived in a little hut. There were many huts around us. There was probably like 8 or 10 huts around us. There was no speaking, there was no language or anything like that. But we were just in each other's company, and we were just so happy. And it was just flashes of things, as if it was flashes of memories. And one image that I had in particular was when we were eating food. It was nighttime, I was eating food, and I was eating with my hands. I was eating with my hands, and I'm not sure what we were eating, but you can say it was kind of like roti or naan. And I just remember laughing. And it wasn't just like a laugh, it was a deep belly laugh. It was a laugh that was just contagious and infectious, and I didn't want to stop. I remember getting outside of the hut, going outside the hut, standing, looking up at the sky, looking up at the stars, and feeling a sense of sadness. I was troubled by internal conflict that I couldn't figure out. I remember looking back at my mother and looking back at the stars and feeling this push and pull of knowing that I'm with my mother and I have this world. Mac then asked me, does this love feel familiar to you? And you know, the crazy part about this, and this is the thing that has resonated with me so much, is that experience, that moment that I had with my mother and those deep belly laughs, that unconditional love that I had felt, was the same love I associated with it within my relationship with Bri. And it was the most mind-boggling thing ever. I would have never thought that that's how I would feel, or that love would be associated. I would almost think that it would be my own mother that I would feel that love, that unconditional love, because that's how my mother is towards me. She loves me unconditionally, she supports me, she's my #1 fan. But that love, that specific love, felt familiar. From there, we moved on to my last past life, and for this one I was in Hawaii, I think. I don't know where I was specifically. We couldn't geographically place it, but I had a surfboard, and I was also a male, and I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, had a wife, she was pregnant. I went surfing, was out in the ocean, and I felt very connected to the ocean, very connected to all things around me, very grounded. But then all of a sudden this wave came out of nowhere, and I just, ended up being trampled by this wave, and I was just rolling, and I was under and getting scraped up by coral and the reefs and all this stuff. I started hyperventilating. I actually started hyperventilating, started crying. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And Matt had to calm me in this experience and say, it's fine. You're gonna just guiding me through it. And I made it back to shore. I just remember the last thing looking up at this mountain that was on the left-hand side. And imagine this mountain almost like St. Lucia. And just being like, huh. And then kind of looking out at the ocean. So then afterwards I was like, what does this all mean, right? After I wiped my tears, you got me out of my hypnotic state. And, I was like, okay, now what? It was kind of tying the things that had been said throughout my entire experience. And this also took place in like an hour. This is a very concise way of me just putting it all together for you guys. And Matt said it. He's like, a lot of people might think that you come in here and you're like making things up, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm seeing these images, now what? Like, did I really live these lives? But it's more of asking the question, why did you envision those things? And are there similar thoughts that happen that you can trace through every session that you have? How do they correlate with your everyday life? All of my past life regressions were simple. Very simple things were happening. I was in a small town. I lived in a little hut or a little house on top of this mountain while I went surfing with my wife, and I was fine. I had this sense of ambition, and that ambition is longing for something more that is out there that you cannot see and you might seek, and wondering if you actually can obtain that. And that is something that I have thought about in my life since my accident. And this past life regression therapy was just like this microscope of seeing how much I probably have if these past lives are real, that I've longed for that I have longed for something more than me, where I am. Or is it I should be comfortable and content with what I have because life is good? And that has been my biggest debacle. That's been my biggest thing. This video is very long, I'm very sorry. But this whole experience, my past life regression, was just such a rewarding feeling for me to sit down. And I still think to this day, as a sense of calm when I'm feeling chaotic, when things are just going awire, my spiritual animal is with me. The other day, yesterday actually, was using the toilet, got up, used the toilet. I sat down, stood up, and I found a little feather right here on my collarbone. And it was like it had just landed there. So that's not the first time that has happened to me. That's actually happened to me a couple times, especially when I was younger. I opened up the shower curtains when I was younger, and I'm not even kidding, a feather just flew down in the shower. Just, my mom used to say it's angels and all that stuff, And I think everyone should go try this at least once. You know what I mean? And I'm the type of person though that I'm like, you should try everything once with limits, right? Let's not get crazy. But trying these experiences, especially spiritual experiences, you have to be careful. I know that, I'm very well aware, but you can learn so much about yourself. Anyways, guys, that was my past life regression experience. It is something that I'm so appreciative for in Modrn Sanctuary allowing me to do this, for Matt taking time out of his day to come see me, talk to me, guide me through this experience, and kind of be this person of comfort when I didn't know what to expect, and a person that I could trust in something so deeply like this. This is a very vulnerable experience, and I have a hard time being completely vulnerable with people times, of course, I highly recommend it. I really do. This experience was out of control. So thank you, Modrn Sanctuary, for allowing me to come. I will leave all of the links for you guys in the description if you guys want to check it out, if you're interested in it, as well as Matt's contact information, so that way you'll know how to get in contact with him. He is the person who does all the past life regression therapy sessions at Modrn Sanctuary. And just so you guys know, Matt has been doing this for 4 years. So the way that Matt actually got into this was he did a past life regression therapy session years ago. Thought nothing of it, went in, was kind of like, this is all a bunch of bahooba. You know, went in, whatever. Then, like, let's just say within a week's time, all the things in which that he kind of had seen and talked about in that session ended up just kind of transpiring throughout the week, and also in this specific game that he was playing, because he played soccer, and he was just kind of like, huh, maybe there's something here. Piqued his interest, and now look at him. So he's been doing it for 4 years, and I gotta say, he made me feel extremely comfortable throughout the entire thing. Again, I'm so sorry that this video is so long, but there was a lot to just kind of get out there. I had been wanting to do this video, didn't know how, and I just wanted it to be completely organic, not scripted, and I just kind of just pour it all out there. So if I still have your attention, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys with the next one. See ya. Like,
Yeah.
going over my body, even to my toes. And
I can tell. I know.
It's insane.
Yeah, I would say you're a very good candidate for hypnosis in general, and therapy. Just because you're very visual, you're very kinesthetic, meaning that it's easy for you to connect with your body. You feel things very deeply in the body, like this wave of relaxation. You have a pretty your imagination's pretty great, right?
It's like wild.
Yeah. It's great. No, that both is very helpful for past life regression and for hypnosis. In hypnotherapy are different techniques, and you treat feelings as objects or people, and then you can change them, you can make them go away. So it requires a little bit of imagination. And in my experience, the more vivid that is, the better the session.
Yeah.